Hi guys, my name's Bill, and what I want to show you today is how to troubleshoot a Kenmore washer that is not spinning. Now this is going to apply to a washer that sounds like it's spinning, but it's not spinning. And there's going to be a couple things that you're going to want to check. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and show you what you need to check to diagnose the problem, to find out whether you have a faulty motor coupler or if you have a faulty clutch. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is step by step on what you need to do to check this out. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the water supply lines from your washer. You want to take them right off the back of the washer, unplug it from the wall, make sure the washer is not plugged in, take the drain hose out, maybe shove a rag in the end of it so you don't dump water all over your floor. I have a concrete floor here, doesn't really matter to me too much. Gets swept up at the end of the day anyway. And what you're going to want to do is tip the machine back. So you want to disconnect the machine from everything, tip the machine back, either lay it completely on its back or prop it up against the wall. Now I went ahead and took the cabinet off this machine, that way you can have a better view of what I'm looking at down here. But you don't have to do that. You're not going to have to remove the cabinet from your washer whenever you diagnose to find out whether you have a bad motor coupler or whether you have a bad clutch on the washer. So the first check that you're going to want to do is check to make sure your motor coupler is not broken. Now I'm going to try to get the camera underneath so I can show you exactly where you're going to want to look. Now when you're looking underneath the machine here, you're basically going to have a view just like this. You're going to have your pump, you're going to have your motor, and the piece that connects the motor to the transmission is going to be your motor coupler. And that's this piece right here. You got a plastic piece with fingers on it that connect to the transmission, another plastic piece that connects to the motor, and they're connected together with a piece of rubber. And a lot of things can happen with this. Either the fingers can break off, or it can split right in here. And basically what happens, all that does is spin around the shaft, and it doesn't actually turn the shaft on the transmission, or it doesn't turn the shaft, or the motor shaft can't actually turn the coupler. So the first thing you want to do is get up under here and give this a spin and look for any cracks, make sure it's not loose, and this one here feels nice and tight. And I know this one's good because I've already had this machine apart, but you know, there's a good chance you could look under here and find a big split in one of these, or you can find laying on your floor some white pieces of plastic, and then you're going to know immediately that that's your motor coupler. So now if your motor coupler is bad, then basically you're going to have to take the pump and the motor off to get to that piece. Now I'm going to show you that here in a minute, but not the first thing, but the next thing we're going to check is going to be the clutch. Before I move on to the clutches, what I have here is, it's like an older style motor coupler. It's got the 3 fingers. Basically there's going to be one attached to the motor, and then there's going to be one attached to the transmission, and then the rubber piece is going to be in the center, and these are going to turn and spin each other. And a lot of times what you'll find is all these little fingers right here are going to be sheared off on one. So when you start spinning it underneath, you're going to know immediately, because it's just not going to be any tension on it. It's just going to spin. Nothing's going to happen. Could be split, cracked right along here, and if that happens, the shaft is just going to turn inside here. And if you look real close, you can see that this has 2 flat sides. Now I have run into a couple that are real hard to check just by spinning them, because they feel like they have tension, but instead of having 2 flat sides, the whole thing's rounded off in the center. So basically it may spin when you do it real easy, but when that motor kicks into the high speed spin, there's not actually enough tension because of it being rounded out in the center to spin the transmission, release the brake, do all that good stuff to make the tub spin. So that may slip past you if you're just reaching up underneath and checking. You know, you may not catch this one here right away. And you know, hopefully with this video here, you're going to see how easy it is to actually pull the transmission off the machine and go ahead and just make a visual check on both of them to make sure it's not rounded out. So you can look up underneath. You may not actually be able to tell whether it's bad or not just from looking underneath. But Now what I'm going to show you right now are two clutches. One clutch is going to be good and the other clutch is going to be bad. Now what I have here is a bad clutch. Now how this works is, as this is spinning on top of the transmission, this little spring here is going to catch on the brake release, and it needs to have enough tension to release the brake. Now this one here does not have enough tension to release the brake. And you see how easy I can spin this with my finger. It's actually not that hard. This one here will barely make the tub spin. So if it's full of clothes and water and the load's heavy and stuff, this will not spin your tub. So your machine will spin, or sound like it's spinning, but it's not spinning. Now I have here a clutch that is good. Now this has had a replacement clutch on it at some point because it's got an extra number of pads in here. I think there's like 6 pads compared to what you'll find on a lot of machines has 3 pads now. So as this is spinning around, that spring is going to catch on the brake release, and I'm going to show you that here when I pull the transmission off that washer, but right now I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what we're looking at and what you're going to see underneath the machine here. So this one here is a lot tighter. Now that's going to be enough tension right there to release the brake and allow the tub on the washer to go into spin. So alright, back to the washer. Alright, so here we are, we're back at the washer. Now what you're going to want to do is, we're not going to remove the cabinet. You're not going to remove the cabinet from the washer. Your washer is basically going to have its shell on, just like this one here, and you're going to be able to do everything that I'm going to do with the cabinet on. If you take the cabinet off, I mean, I have a couple of videos on how to take the cabinet off and how to put the cabinet back on. So if you want to take that route, by all means go right ahead, but you don't have to. Now the first step in removing the transmission from the machine is going to be inside your agitator. You're going to find a 7/16 screw. So basically, flathead screwdriver, the cap off, look down inside, that's a 7/16. Now there's another style right here. When you pop the cap off, down inside you're going to have a cover. Reach down in, hook it, pull that cover out. There's your 7/16 bolt. And one more type of agitator that you may have is you pop the cover off, pull your dust cover, whatever that is, out, and inside you're going to see a square hole. Now I think that's it's like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch drive. Ratchet extension will work on that. I use a big flathead screwdriver, just kind of put it in there, lefty loosey, loosen that plastic nut, and then your agitator is going to be free from the washer. Now what I've done is went ahead and already loosened that screw out. So the first thing we're going to do is just reach down in, grab the agitator, pull it right out, and this is what you're going to be left with. Now you may have on top a little plastic piece with a little metal ring. Pay attention to how they're on, pull them off, move them to the side. This one doesn't have them. Some washers have like a little plastic ring and a little metal ring that sit over top of here. Just take those off, because once you pull the transmission out, they'll just fall inside the tub. But go ahead and just remove those. Pay attention to how they're on there, and that way you can put them back on. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and tip the machine back again, and I'm going to lay it back, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Okay, now we're back underneath the washer again. Now I got the machine leaned back. It's not laying all the way back, but far enough back that we'll be able to pull this transmission out. So what you're going to find is the pump underneath. It has 2 clips. You can easily take those off with your finger. Snap 1, snap 2. Grab and pull. And just tuck it into the frame somehow. Move it out of the way so you have access to the front of the motor. Now these clips here, turn it like a 1/4 turn and pull it right out. You got a little hook like that. In, sideways, turn, snap on. That's how that works. So we'll go ahead and move those out of the way. Now the machine is unplugged from the wall, so if you have not unplugged the machine, this would be the time that you would want to unplug it from the wall so you don't electrocute yourself and cause bodily harm. Unplug the motor. And under here, squeeze the top of this clip. Let me see if I can do this so you guys can see. What I'm going to do is just squeeze the top of this and push it down and out of the transmission. So squeeze, boom, it's out of the way. So now everything is basically where we want it to be at this point. So now I'm going to go ahead, for purposes of checking the clutch to see if it's bad, I'm going to leave the motor attached to the transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these two clips on. The next thing you're going to want to do from underneath your machine when you have it tilted back is pull the transmission out. Now we took the bolt out of the center of the agitator. So when you look underneath your machine, you're going to find 3 bolts. These are 1/2-inch bolts. Here's 1. Here's 2. And behind the motor plate, back there is number 3. And those are the 3 bolts. There's a pretty good view of them right there. We're going to remove those 3 bolts. Now I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down, take those bolts out. Before I move anything, I'll pick the camera back up and one-hand that out of there so you can see what's going on.